All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Traffic Trade Group, and it is Thursday, the 20th of July. So finally, a little bit of volatility hitting the market today. We're going to talk about that in the video, and also about rotation and what we're seeing so far. So first things first, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purpose only, not giving any advice or recommendations. This will be a little bit of a shorter video because I do have to leave after the close. I'm going to head up to Saratoga, New York. Beautiful time to go up there. So I'll be up there for the weekend. Let's start with a couple of the quick observations. So as I've said, going into earnings season is that it's a very interesting time. You're going to hear from, obviously a huge amount of companies in a small amount of time, and you're going to find some things out that are going to be different than what's expected, right? There's going to be some names that miss on earnings, or there's going to be a bad reaction to earnings, and there's also going to be potential leaders that come out of earnings season. There's always going to be some names that surprise to the upside, and I could give you a couple quick observations. I think so far on the positive side, I think that the banking situation, right, and it's kind of interesting too, because I personally wasn't expecting anything major out of the banks, but I think I've talked about that in the last two videos. James Gorman really kind of setting the tone, talking about how he thinks that the worst could be behind in terms of what they've been dealing with. Obviously, JP Morgan has been extreme. I don't think JP Morgan's been down, or maybe it was down one day since they reported earnings, right? That's the first, and look at them, look at this name continue to trend and get out of this range, something that JP Morgan has been very, very quiet doing. So I think that's one of the surprises. And, you come to the realization too that these names, there's just been nothing going on with the bank. So again, in a tough market, these names were all positive, and Goldman joined the party. Even though I didn't think that their results were particularly impressive. But, look at the weekly chart here. And, this was something that I tweeted out over the weekend. I was talking about I was talking about the Dow and, the possibility of the Dow pushing higher. And I just kind of covered charts of the first of the largest weights and the price weighted index for the Dow. And lo and behold, I think three or four of those names that I mentioned have had some impressive price action. So, we've got one more day of the week. Tomorrow's options expiration, so it could be a whippy day. But if Goldman breaks holds 340 by the end of today, I mean, that's a break of the value area, and that's really impressive, as well as what the Dow's been doing, right? And here's the Dow, and this is breaking the value area too. I've showed this chart a couple of times this week because, when you're looking at a weekly bar on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right, you just don't have enough information, and we won't have the complete bar, obviously, until it closes on Friday. But I mean, that's very impressive. UNH is another one too, right, that I didn't know going into this week if this was going to kind of hang on here. And this had a powerful day, a powerful week so far. So again, that's where I see some upside results, as well as what's happens with what's been going on with healthcare too. Healthcare also is at the top of value, and again, one more day to go. But remember, we talked about healthcare in the member macro video this weekend, talking about, hey, it basically had a chance to kind of break through the value area, and it did that. There was a nice inflow, sizable inflow that went into XLV on Friday. That was something that I tweeted about on Saturday, I believe. And you've got some nice continuation here. J&J stole the show today. I mean, J&J never, I don't want to say never, I have to go back and look to see, but actually we could do that right now. But J&J, up 6%. I don't know if J&J, you could look over the last few years. I don't think I've ever seen J&J move 6% on earnings, right? And going back, this goes all the way back to 2012, right? So what I'm looking at, by the way, is in this right column here. And yeah, that's a huge move, and again, I think it's one of those things too, where people fell asleep, including myself, right? I wasn't interested in J&J for this earnings quarter, but I think they're kind of under-owned, and people really fell asleep on these companies, so that when they did something somewhat better than expected, you got a big move, because again, that's a big move for J&J. And then Abbott. Right, Abbott has another name that's been asleep. So, and this one is actually I'm most interested in, because I like Abbott. Somebody asked me about Abbott a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I said, let's keep an eye on and see what it does. It still is going to have to get through that value area, but at least it's starting to kind of do something interesting, because I do think Abbott is a pretty intriguing company. TMO is going to report earnings too, right? And this could be an interesting to watch. This one is it report tomorrow? No, it reports next week, right? So this might be worth taking a shot on earnings. But so these are some of the positive surprises so far. So again, there's things to talk about here. It's not just all what happened to Netflix and what happened to Tesla today. Netflix kind of came in a little bit. It's just basically, by the way, it's just basically back to where it was last week, back inside the value area for the month. It did have that run into earnings. It took a little while for it to materialize, but it did run into earnings. So again, a lot of times you have the buy the rumor, sell the news, right? And that's what you got for Netflix, which was down 8%. Tesla, again, really ran into the report, right? Took out an upside VPOC. I sold it. This is my short-term target, was the upside VPOC. It did go a little bit higher from where I sold it. And, this thing really got crunched today. At one point it was down 10%. On the positive side, now you have a dip, right? And it filled the gap. Now I would watch to see what it does here. If it can, I personally probably will not go back into this for a swing trade unless it reclaims the value area as well as the 20-day moving average. But that's just me. But for the long term, people like dips. And this is good to see that this this gap was filled here, right? So you got a couple gaps filled. Remember, that gap was going back to when they had really strong, better than expected deliveries. So it's basically just back to where it was a couple of weeks ago, right? And around we go in terms of some of these things. But let's go through. I haven't talked about the indices, but you just kind of, in my opinion, have to be realistic, right? And another upside level was taken out. I mean, this has been one heck of a run. Let it come in and back and fill, in my opinion, right? And again, like today, just down, the S&P was just down 65 basis points. But look at things objectively. And I know sometimes when prices are moving quickly and you're looking at a 5-minute chart or something, and it looks like a bigger move. But what's to say? And again, I hate to break people's hearts when I say this kind of stuff, but if it moves all the way back to the 20-day moving average, this would be a good buying opportunity, in my opinion, that from a technical standpoint. Now we're just right below the 5-period moving average, but we're going to have a lot more companies that are going to report earnings, and they make up a big portion of the indices. So if they have similar results to what we saw for Netflix and Tesla, you could see, the price kind of come in pretty decently for that group of stocks, which again is very, very extended, right? The Qs. Right now, I talked about how the Qs took out this VPOC, and I was pretty amazed. I said, normally that's where you see some digestion. We'll take a look at what's happened here, right? And sometimes we can go a little bit further, and then we kind of come back a bit. So notice that this could get down to the 20-day moving average would be down at 371, and that might be also a better place to kind of put some new money to work. And I think for the most part, if you're on Twitter and so forth, and if you're following some really good traders, I think a lot of the really good traders are kind of in the same boat. There's been a lot of things that have been exhausted to the upside, and they're no longer going to provide really good trading opportunities, right? You need that volatility, right, to kind of come back and make things a better, trading environment. For long term, where you're not trading so much and those accounts, you probably want the market to continue to go higher. But it's better when the market goes up, backs and fills a little bit, and that provides a good trading opportunity, provided that the trend stays intact. And right now, the trends look very good, in the market. And of course, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not making any predictions because we don't know until we kind of get that test. But looking at this in the Qs, what I would say is that the last couple months, every time that we've come in and kind of tested this 20-day moving average, it's been a nice buying opportunity. So we're not there yet. I'm not saying that we have to get there, but I think 371.25 somewhere in that area would be something interesting. For the time being, for the Qs, price did hold this top of value. Right. So again, like if you read my notes in the morning, I've said that, support is a ways away. And sometimes when that's the case, you can see that kind of waterfall price action to get down to, your first level of support. So that's 376. That'll be something to watch for tomorrow. This is just a value area for the week, so it's short term, but that would be something to see if we hold and bounce. And if not, if that doesn't hold, then I would be watching that 371 level. But I haven't talked about the small caps, but I could do that really quickly. Same thing here. We went a little bit too far in front of this virgin point of control. I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of come back a little bit, right? Again, virgin point of controls are where there's been a lot of volume, a lot of overhead supply. Also, we'll see where this closes on, tomorrow, but 195.87 is the level to watch there. And that's where it got rejected earlier in the year. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I would just say, be mindful of that level. Somebody asked me on Twitter, they're like, I understand Twitter. Like, there's so many people who like when people make predictions. I'm not one of those people. I will basically trade, I'm a trend trader. So I'm going to trade something versus a level, and I'm going to ride the trend. What's nice about the value areas and the market webs, right, and volume at price, is significant levels to trade against. So for me, if we can't break 195.87, then I probably won't be doing anything here in the small cap ETF. If we break above 195.87, right, then I would say, hey, we've got a trend that's going on here, and maybe I will look to see if price could eventually get up to 223. But it's all about making decisions, right, and not making predictions, right? Riding trades as long as they're active or you have something to them, right? So we'll have to see if price gets above 195.87, and if it does, that would be a long trade. And where does the long trade not work? When it breaks back, if it would to break back inside value. That's all it is, guys. It's just taking the market in front of you and using, a risk framework to make decisions about whether you're going to be long or short, not about predictions and not about emotion. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to provide some stupid, prediction, because I don't know, and no one else does know, right? And I think, that's kind of maybe the final note for, the final conclusion. But the more that you've been in this market, like if you've been a trader or if you've been an investor in this market, you get to figure out at the end of the day, and that's why many professional traders don't put on CNBC, because it's full of people making predictions. Some people are going to be right making predictions. Some people are going to be wrong. The people who are right will come on again and they will do victory laps. But really, it's, there's no, it's not because someone is really, really good. It's just making predictions is not, you learn that it really is not where you want to get to as a trader, right? You want to just basically know where you've got a breakout, right? Know where you've got an opportunity, and know where the trade is not going to work. And that's it, right? And getting out, out of those trades that don't work, for small losses rather than big losses, right? One other thing I didn't get a chance to talk about, but the home builders, again, this is kind of goes along with the Qs and some of those names. This has been a very hot area, right? And again, like I wouldn't get so caught up with whether the name comes out with good or bad earnings, right? Because a lot is built into the price of these stocks, right? I saw this earlier on Twitter, and I'm sorry to say this as well, but SMCI, right? This is a name that had, good earnings results, right? But this stock has run up like crazy, right? So of course, like I'm still long a small piece of this name too, but it, the price is already going to tell, the price is forward looking, right? And it's going to tell you, a lot more than what an analyst is going to say, and so on and so forth. So just because they beat their earnings, that doesn't mean I want to go out and buy the stock, because the stock is up huge. Like, let it come in a little bit, and maybe that may not happen because it is such a strong stock. But I'm not going to go out and buy the stock just because it's down a little bit, if without realizing that it's gone up in the last couple of months, like well over 100%. All right, so that's it for today's recap. Have a great night, everybody, and see you tomorrow.